They're recording, and we'll get this thing started. My name is Tim Stalmer. I'm here with Mary Smith, and we're from the program committee for the VSTE conference, and welcome to our final session for the second day. We're here with Dominic Church from Canvas, and he's going to just kind of lead this as kind of a discussion here. So we've left the microphones available to you. We ask that you leave them off when you're not talking, but if you'd like to jump in and ask questions or comments or any sort of ideas that you have for using Canvas, feel free. And I'm going to turn this over to Dominic.
Thanks, Tim. I am the regional director for Canvas in Virginia in the Mid-Atlantic region. And maybe some of you have heard me on other presentations before, but prior to joining the Instructure team, I was just like you guys. I was a 17-year public educator here in South Florida, where it is Florida cold. It's 64 degrees right now. So I've got my sweater on. But I was a teacher, an instructional coach, what we would consider an ITRT in Virginia. I was a school administrator for a little while and a district administrator over instructional materials. So spent a lot of time implementing Canvas at the end of my career with Broward County. Did a lot of professional development in Canvas as a Canvas user. And now, of course, I get to go and preach the gospel of Canvas all around my territory. So I'm really here to facilitate this as a discussion for all of you. We want to hear what awesome things are going on. Not that I want to hear, but if there's anything that you're having trouble with and that I can help with, I'm here for you tonight. But, aside from also wanting to wish everybody that might celebrate a happy first night of Hanukkah, it is the season for those of us. But any other things Canvas related, I'm here for you. So feel free to open up the mics or ask questions in the chat, and we'll bounce this around.
Probably was a mistake to unmute me, guys, but that's okay. My big question is, my big interest is I'm in a pre-K through 5 school, and we are on iPads. And prior to September, at least half of our students had never touched Canvas. So we started out with templates. We made a template of the homepage. Everybody uses the same homepage pre-K through 5. My question is suggestions for next steps. What's working for people? I'm not worried about my 3, 4, 5s, but my pre-Ks through 2 are struggling with drinking the I believe juice that they can do this.
Yeah. Do we have any other early elementary or pre-K folks out there that want to jump in and say what's working for them or commiserate?
Hi, I'm Ashley Bajor from Manassas Park, and I'm the ITRT grade levels, 3rd through 5th grade. And one thing that's been working really well for my teachers is having a calendar of their agenda every day, like a daily calendar, and they click on that, and that leads them to an agenda with videos of modeling as well as when they need to be live with the teachers.
Cool. Thank you.
And yes, I'm George Valetti. I'm from Manassas Park as well, and I'm actually the ITRT for pre-K through 2nd, and I am feeling you, let me tell you. I'm right there with you. We just brought our pre-K on board with Chromebooks here about 4 weeks ago now, and then we went back virtual. So we brought them back hybrid for about a week, and then we had to shut everything back down. But I will say this, to piggyback off of Ashley, one of the things too that we've definitely noticed with Canvas is that the modular layout for our youngers to follow is extremely difficult. So what we've done is we actually link our navigational images to pages so that the students only have to navigate through with using the next button versus actually having to try to read through the module list, even though the emojis and all of that can assist with that process. But we have found that it's much easier for them to teach them the next button so that they just click next and it takes them through the content without actually having to find the module that they need to go to. And so that's how we've set that up. And we've actually used like a navigational page for the students to be able to go in and they click on their Zoom, and then that guides them through their synchronous activities, and then they click next and that takes them through their asynchronous activities. That's how we've basically laid that out as well. And we did start as well with a basic template and kind of here's where we are. And we're literally continuing to develop this thing as we're literally driving in it. It's kind of like building a car without the wheels, and we're kind of, you know, throwing the wheels on as we go. But that is one thing that I have found extremely helpful, was the ability to navigate through pages versus trying to get them to navigate the module list.
And you make me feel good, because that's kind of where we were, or where we are. We've got the template on the front page. The teachers did opt to do modules, but their modules are pages in it's day 1, day 2, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that the modules were labeled Monday through Friday more for the parents than the kids. So that Susie misses school on Tuesday, how does she make up what's missing? And so makes me happy to know that I'm headed in the right direction. So good things.
I love hearing some of those ideas, because the reality is, you know what's best for your kids, you know what they need to learn and how they need to learn it. And Canvas can be flexible with the way that we present that information to them. And so I heard, you know, from George, this idea that you might just have a buttonized homepage or something like this that I'm showing you here. The teacher in the background might use modules as a way to organize their content, right? Here, you know, for me as a teacher, I can come in and I can say, well, this is what I want the kids to do this week. One thing I wanted to mention, and it's kind of like a hidden trick some people don't realize, is that each one of these links in the module has its own hyperlink. And if I copy this, for instance, this link address here, it will actually, if I link directly to that link, will drop me into the module and will preserve those next and previous buttons. So if I come back to my home page and I edit this page and I say, well, I want Monday to link to where I was just at, I'm going to drop that in. And then you'll notice it links me into the modules, the item in that module. So it will actually take me to that first lesson and preserve that next link, as opposed to if I just link directly from the page here, it links to that page in isolation, not in the context of a module. So that's a great way to kind of leverage the modules on the back end for the teacher to organize that sequence, but make it really easy for the student to get to from the front side.
And sir, that actually brings up another question that I've had. One of the struggles that we've had is when they are actually navigating through the module and they get to the end of the module, there's no stop button for our kiddos. So if we have the modules, so what I've been working with my teachers on is making sure that their current module is the last one in the modular list. So then that way, when the kids finish it, they know they're done. We've also used a stop sign to kind of indicate that, but the kids get in such a happy habit of clicking next. And then we have other modules laid out. They keep going. So then they're working on work for like Tuesday, Wednesday, that type of thing. Any suggestions on that?
Yeah, my best suggestion is, especially if we're leveraging those sequences of modules, would be to either create from within the module here. Notice I clicked the little 3-button menu at the module level to come in and edit this and say, well, we've got some requirements. Students must complete all of the requirements in the module before they can move on. And we can make it just view something, submit something, score at a certain level, and then make that last piece be teacher graded, you know? So then the students wouldn't be able to move on if the teacher hadn't graded that. And it could just be thumbs up, it was complete, right? But if the teacher wanted to lock it at that point, they could do that. The other possibility would be to lock the next module, right? To come in here and hit edit. And we're going to say, well, we're going to lock this until, you know, next Monday. And we're not going to open up that following module until next week's stuff. And so you can use a time lock. You can actually add prerequisite locks as well. So we could say, well, you can't start this module until you've completed the previous module. But again, thinking through that last assignment being a teacher graded assignment so that they can't move on until the teacher wants them to. Hope that helped.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, we were looking at the prerequisites and locks until, but we were just struggling with kind of how to wrap our head around that last activity and what that looked like to keep that lock before we move to the next module. So I appreciate that idea very, very much.
Fantastic. There was a question earlier in the chat that looks like just came to me about Google LTI. What has everybody's experience been with the Google LTI if you're from a Google district? Is it working well for you? Tabitha mentioned that the assignments aren't rendering in SpeedGrader. I don't know if that's a global issue or not.
So my really, I had to change over from Google Cloud Assignment to Google LTI just this week, and Google Cloud Assignment was putting them in SpeedGrader, and Google LTI is not.
Correct. We have the same issues, and our teachers are just dying for LTI to have SpeedGrader, but I've been told that it's coming, so we just have to be patient.
Yeah, so what ended up happening, just so you know, first of all, the history behind this, we built that original Google Cloud assignment integration because at the time we had lots of folks using Google as a productivity suite, but they didn't have a way to integrate it into Canvas. So we worked a little bit with Google, but we owned that integration. At some point, Google said, hey, we think we could do it better. So we're going to build an integration from Google Productivity Suite into Canvas, basically allowing Google to kind of replicate some of the Google Classroom functionality inside of Canvas. And you'll notice if you've ever used both of them, that the newer Google LTI definitely feels a lot more like Google Classroom than the older Google Cloud Assignment did. That being said, because Google is owning this, they kind of have been working at their pace to integrate and build all of these things out. We heard first quarter of 2021, a lot of the functionality that everybody's been waiting for should be arriving soon, but that's why we didn't deprecate the old one so that people could theoretically operate both side by side until we get the full functionality of the Google owned integration.
I've had a bit of a workaround for the Google LTI. So I teach high school, so this might obviously not be so great for like elementary school kids, but what I've been doing is I've just been giving my assignment with a force copy link. That way, when the kids click that link, it produces their own copy in their Google Drive, and then they just upload it straight from there. Because I know other teachers at my school have had them like disappear and then the kids get frustrated. So I just kind of like, we did a practice assignment where they just opened like my syllabus and then reopened it and kind of got them into that habit of how to submit things. But that's worked well for me if Google LTI isn't working great for anybody else.
We do the same thing too with our high schools. We haven't switched to the 1.3 yet, but we do have Google Cloud, and we just had a lot of connectivity issues. So with the just living in the middle of nowhere, so we found that students tended to be more likely to submit an assignment if they forced a copy and then just uploaded it as well.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
It's always good to hear people figuring out some of these workarounds. I get excited about it, so I'll take these back internally and let people know that folks are having to jump through hoops. Can we push on our friends at Google to get this integrated a little bit better, faster? Someone was going to ask a question before I started yapping.
You're fine. So I have two questions. I consider myself pretty efficient with Canvas, but these are just things that I don't know if someone else has an answer to. So the first one is I accidentally created a ton of work for myself this week when I was in Commons, and I accidentally imported somebody's entire course into my course, including all their announcements, all their pages, all their quizzes, like everything. And so my like practice course was gone. I know there's a revision history for pages, but is there a revision history or an undo button for like the course?
So there's not at the teacher level. Theoretically, you could reach out to Canvas support. I don't what. Well, yeah, all of you guys in Virginia have tier 1 support, so you could reach out directly to support, and they could walk your course back for you. It's probably not it'll get taken care of in a day, but there's not a nice button to kind of undo what you did. That's why we typically recommend folks have like a garbage course that they import stuff into so that they can review it before they move it into their production courses. It's good advice for designing websites, and it's good advice for building Canvas courses.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, so my school was previously classroom before this year when we moved to the, I think the term is robust learning management system that Canvas is.
Uh-huh.
And so like I use a ton of external tools that don't integrate with Canvas, like quizzes or Wiser.me or just like Google Forms that I have. So when kids turn them in late, Canvas doesn't know and I don't know. Google Classroom had a turn in button. Is there some sort of like I haven't seen a turn in button for students, but like I've been putting them as no submission. Like I'm not sure how to know if a kid turns it in late.
So the advice there would be to leverage like the text entry box, for instance, or an external URL as a submission type. If you have no submission, Canvas isn't going to let you know if anybody turned anything in, right? Because we assume that was like an in-class assignment or a project that you're using Canvas's rubric maybe to grade, but we're not expecting to see anything passed into Canvas. The workaround for something like that would be to have the student just type something in the text entry box that says completed, or upload that URL as an external URL inside of Canvas. That will flag you that something has been submitted when it was submitted and on time. But as long as you're leveraging that on paper submission type or no submission, we just go blinders on. We're not assuming that students are turning anything in Canvas that way. All right, a couple of more questions came in the chat. Rod mentioned, circling back to the littles in Canvas, would availability dates on the items work to gradually release the items through the week? Yeah, as long as those availability dates are, for the entire group. Well, I could be for individuals as well. They won't show up in the modules, and students wouldn't be able to access them until that availability date came to pass. So you could leverage availability dates. You could lock modules. There's lots of different ways to hide content from students until you're ready for them to see it. Let's see. Mrs. Pollard mentioned high school teacher created a form for students to complete when they complete their missing assignments, so she doesn't have to go back all the time. It's a great idea to have some sort of a form on your homepage, maybe for students to proactively let you know that they've submitted something that needs to be regraded if for whatever reason you're not seeing those notifications come in through Canvas. Or even training them to use the Canvas inbox, right? Like students have access to that. They could send you a message that says, I submitted this, and then you can go searching for it. Oh yeah, George mentioned if you use iframe generator, you can embed a Google site within a Canvas page. The other thing to consider is, as long as we're embedding secure websites, if you just embed a website using the external URL into a module, and I'll show you what I mean, we'll render those websites for you right inside of Canvas as well. Let's see. I think that's the right. All right, so if I'm in, my modules, and I come in and I add an external URL, if I've got, as long as I make sure that I put the HTTPS at the front of this, then we know that we're not going to get mixed secure and unsecure content, which is a no-no, right? You don't like to have mixed content for security reasons. But once you do that, students would be able to see, oh, Google doesn't let you embed their stuff. So some websites block you from iframing stuff in. They only will let you show things natively in their own tab. Other websites allow you to. So I'll show you like my local newspaper. And then that will render right inside of the tab. So that really depends on the HTML headers at the source website, right? It has nothing to do with Canvas, has everything to do with that website saying, yep, you're allowed to iframe us, or nope, no way, we're not going to let you do it. And the way that you can kind of tell is if you're a fan of the inspector like I am in Chrome, here's another free tip for everyone tonight. You add that that site that doesn't work, and then you come in and inspect it. It's going to tell you right here in the error codes. It says refuse to display Google in a frame because it set X frame options to same origin. That's just a fancy way of saying you're only allowed to see this framed in. So that's something to consider. But most websites don't have those restrictions, so you're going to be able to place them right inside of a module and have them render right in Canvas without too much fuss. And I think things like Google Forms are embeddable. So if you have a Google form and you drop that link in, they've allowed that to be embedded in things. So, there's a way of bringing a Google form into Canvas. Obviously, we're not going to be able to pass quiz scores back, but why are you using Google Forms for quizzes anyway? You've got Canvas for that. Any other fun things that are going on? Awesome, aha moments that you've had so far this school year with Canvas?
I have another question. So old quizzes you could record so that the kids that needed read alouds could hear the quiz questions and answers. New quizzes is not allowing that. Is that going to be an option?
It will be. So the plan is to bring new quizzes up to what we call feature parity with old quizzes. That's the reason why we haven't gotten rid of old quizzes yet, is that there's some features in there that work really well for our K-12 users as well as our higher ed users. Things like the question banks might be easier to manage in old quizzes versus new. And so until we have feature parity between the two, we won't deprecate old. That being said, I love the ease of quiz creation in new quizzes, right? It's very simple to navigate and build new questions and stuff. But the problem, and this is inside baseball for some of you that care about these things, is that we built new quizzes as an external tool so that we could modularize parts of Canvas. That means that when we go to upgrade it, we're not taking down core parts of Canvas. Old quizzes is a core part of Canvas. So having new quizzes be its own separate thing is great in some aspects, but it makes you a little bit crazy with some of the other ones. But we're working on it. We're working to have there just be one quizzing engine so that it's not confusing for teachers or students or anybody else, and that it works to blueprint and use in commons and share directly and all of those great things that you're probably frustrated with right now. So we hear the frustrations from people, and our product team is working hard on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. I used to be able to put articulate files in with no problems, but when the update was done in the end of August, now articulate files won't work. Is that going to be changed back, or is there anything going on with that?
So you're talking about grabbing like an HTML package from an articulate file and dropping it into our files, right?
Yes.
So the workaround on that is to export your Articulate as a SCORM. We support SCORM as a global standard in addition to things like LTI and Common Cartridge. The problem with just uploading the files into the Canvas file bucket is that Canvas was never really designed to be a file server per se, and that's what ends up happening when you drop that package into the files, is that there's a CSS file and a JavaScript file and an HTML file, and all of those things are great when you're hosting a website, right? We can pull all of those resources in, but Canvas was never really designed to host a website within the construct of Canvas. It worked for a little while because somebody forgot to turn off a setting on an AWS bucket. But when they went back and fixed that, it broke the Articulate file package. But just grab, we can work with you to turn on your SCORM. I think the CSM has to turn that on for your instance. But if that's something that you need, we can enable that so that you can just repackage those files as SCORM packages and bring them in. The advantage there too is if you build out a SCORM package with some questions or assessment built into it, that can pass the scores back into Canvas versus the Articulate files themselves can't.
Dominic, just
right,
let you know we're down under 5 minutes, so just get your last questions in.
Yeah, we've got some great ones tonight. All right. Somebody asked about printing new quizzes from Canvas. Is there a way to do that without an extension? Honestly, I don't know. I haven't played around with that, but I will investigate and see what's going on with printing new quizzes. You've got students, I assume, with paper-based accommodations that need, some hard materials to be able to work through. So yeah, let me find out what's the story on that. If you send me an email, I'm going to drop my email in the chat here, but feel free to send me an email to remind me, and I will get back to you ASAP. All right, 3 minutes. Who's going to have the question that takes the last 3 minutes? Or a success story. Who wants to tell me some wonderful thing that has happened because you guys have access to such a robust learning management system?
It's been a long day, I guess. Of course, they're all long these days, aren't they?
I can throw one out for you. It's Hour of Code. It's Computer Science Week. Our school was celebrating Hour of Code this week, and a bunch of us at various elementary schools in the district got together and we created an Hour of Code course. And there's, a couple different modules. There's some unplugged activities as well as some virtual, go check out this website kind of stuff. And we've been asked to keep adding to it so that it lives past this week. So we must have done something okay for them to want us to keep it alive. So we'll take it as a win.
I'm sure it's the content that you did right. And I always tell that to people, like the idea is at some point Canvas evaporates into the background and it just becomes the tool that you use to share your content and instructional strategies. That comes with practice, right? The better you are, the more advanced on the technology integration spectrum you get, the tools and hardware and software just kind of disappear, and we can get back to what we really like doing, which is teaching and making sure our kids are learning. So good job, Marie, on getting that content out there.
And with that, I think we are at the end of our half hour. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Dominic, for leading this discussion. I hope everybody got something out of this session.
And everybody double check the chat. Rod has shared a couple of links for you guys to professional learning opportunities along with VSTE, as well as a form that you could fill out to give them some feedback. So, take those down. If you can't fill them out right now, make sure you've got them so that you can get that feedback up to VSTE. We've had a blast partnering with Virtual Virginia, VSTE. We were with VSTE last week. So the organizations have come together in such a fantastic way to support the teachers in the Commonwealth, and we're just really glad to be a part of this.
And I doubt this is the end of it. We're going to continue helping to support teachers in the state. Anyway, thank you for coming tonight. Don't forget that tomorrow we have sessions at 8 and noon, and then the spotlight session at 5 in the afternoon. Remember that the spotlight session is part of the paid part of this. So if you're not already registered, you still have that option to register and get all of the learning that we're going to have on Saturday and Sunday. We've got a lot of wonderful sessions there. And let's stop the recording here.